Did you hear that Nipsey Hussle wanted to do a documentary about Nas's I Am album?
No, I didn't. I didn't hear about that.
I want to keep it simple, straight to the point, but this is Nipsey Hussle's genius, right? He just obviously he was not just a rapper. You know, he was giving back to his community. He was that whole plaza where he got gunned down. God rest his soul. Like this was a person who, in my opinion, will probably maybe would have continued to make music, but definitely music was not just going to be his one thing. He was doing the Dr. Sebi, I think that's the pronunciation, documentary. People thought
Oh,
that
CB,
CB, yeah,
CB.
people thought there was a conspiracy theory about maybe that was why that he got killed. He was doing this documentary, and the backstory behind the Nas I Am album was it got heavily bootlegged. Which, by the way, if you remember the source, it did get 4.5 mics in the source. Almost a classic album. I really enjoyed that album, but it got heavily bootlegged. And Nas hated the album. He hated it.
Right.
By the time it came out, I didn't even want to listen to it. Get that out of the car. He hated it. So the fact that we could have gotten content, like you were saying about that back and forth with The Rock, and we could have gotten that we didn't see any of that. So the fact that we could have got that intimate look, that just kind of showed you where Nipsey Hussle's mind was at. He was just trying to show people things that people are interested in or never even thought they would be interested in. And I was always curious to see what one of his documentaries would look like, because at the end of the day, if me and you say, yo, we're both going to make a documentary about a basketball, just a basketball, my documentary could potentially be totally different than yours because it's about perspective, right? I might
Right.
make the documentary about the basketball, being created the downfall of the black man because all black people now wanted to be basketball players. You might make the documentary about how the black basketball saved black people, took us out of poverty,
Right.
right? So it'd be interesting to see his perspective on these things, only because he was obviously a very intelligent brother. So it sucks, that we're not going to get that. Who knows what else he had in the works, So
Yeah.
yeah.
That is. There's it. You know, the thing about Nipsey is just like the message that he was spreading was just different from everybody else, and I think that's why it resonates so deep with everybody still to this day, right? Like, and the thing about it is a lot of people didn't realize what type of person he was or anything until he passed away.
Yeah, it's always the case,
The
man.
thing, yeah, but in this case it was more devastating because of he wasn't just somebody who was just rich and famous. Like there's a lot of people who just die and they might have a lot of money, so now we know who they are, or they had some songs or whatever, and now they died and we realize that their music is really good or something like that. But this was actually a guy beyond music, like a man who had ideas and was passing things on to people who looked like him. You know what I mean? He was trying to spread the message of ownership. You know what I mean? And not when nobody was spreading that message. So I assume that these documentaries were gonna, I mean, spearline that type of mentality. Like I'm going to spread these truths to the people that don't want me to spread. I'm going to
Hmm.
tell them what they need to hear. With the I Am and the Nas documentary, I'm going to be honest. I probably wouldn't have been super interested in that documentary. Uh, Not that Nas isn't a great MC and everything. He just doesn't have the story for me that I feel I would be interested.
Mm.
My devastation with this whole situation with Nipsey, just overall, and the documentary side is that Dr. Sebi one that you mentioned, right? Because Nick Cannon was supposed to take that over, and it disappeared. It faded into dust, and I haven't heard anybody say anything about it. That's why when you mentioned it, that's the first thing I thought.
Yeah.
I said to myself, "Wow, I swear Nick Cannon said that he was about to take this documentary, and
But
it might be coming. It might
yeah,
be
but
taking
but
time."
but but again, even with that, I don't mean to interrupt you. It's again about
Yeah,
perspective. Who says that Nick Cannon's documentary would have been the same as Nipsey's, right? So it's
very
like
true.
we're not going to get that perspective again. It's gone. It's
Yeah,
lost. So
that's a solid point.
yeah, man. R.I.P. to Nip. Leave it in the comments. Throw up a couple of these. and like, subscribe, all that
Yeah,
good stuff, man.
I want to know if people would be if people would be interested in seeing a Nas documentary about I Am. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah.
I want to know if people are interested in seeing a documentary about Dr. Sebi. And for those who don't know, Dr. Sebi was a doctor who apparently found cures for HIV and cancer and all of these diseases that they say are incurable. He was able to find cures, allegedly, and not just any cures, but all natural.
All natural.
So not man-made chemical. So that's what made him so prolific too. So, leave it in the comments, people.
Two guys doing a podcast. Two guys doing a podcast. Two guys doing a podcast. Podcast. Ow.